And I don't know if you know this, but this is how I got started. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what happened and some things that are pretty personal. And my hope is that it helps somebody. So, backstory, I remember when this first happened to me. I was in Middleton, Wisconsin, just out of Madison, and I was in the summer. I believe it was like 8th or 9th grade, and it was a summer day, and it was hot. I was barefoot, and I was sitting on a picnic table, wooden picnic table. We were living in some apartments. My mom was getting her PhD at UW, and it was summertime. And I noticed that my feet felt funny, and I looked down, and they were sweating. And so I took them off the wood, and there was these big puddles on the picnic table. I was sitting on the top of it, and my feet were on the bench that you sit on. And then the next spot was sweaty. And it's the first time I remember this happening. And over the next years, it became something that became more of a problem. I started to get really self-conscious about this sweating thing. And I was always a pretty anxious guy. Had a lot of reasons to be anxious, a lot of abuse as a kid, and physical and emotional, very, very crazy stuff. But I had this sweating thing that I noticed. And as I was going through high school and then college, I was so uncomfortable that I didn't even have a girlfriend for all of college. I kind of sort of went out a little bit here and there, but just couldn't do it. The thought of holding hands and taking dance lessons and that sort of thing. I would try those kind of things, but it was pretty humiliating when somebody's pulling their hand away and wiping it off, and I wiped my hand off before I shook hands with people, and I was just terrified that people would find out, and I did my best to hide it and to not look anxious, and I think I did a pretty good job of that most of the time. But on the inside, I had tons of anxiety, and then the way it showed up was I would be sweating. And I remember years later, it was becoming a very big problem. And I'll tell you a little about that. But my big desire through high school and college, and even afterwards, starting to become a physical therapist, where you put your hands on people, my big desire was to get rid of this sweaty hand thing and to get rid of this anxiety, especially the sweaty hand thing, though. That was the big one. I thought if I could just fix that one thing. I even remember talking to God and asking God, just fix this one thing. I don't care if I don't make any money, if anything else doesn't go right, I don't care. Just fix this one thing, because it was that uncomfortable. And over the years, I tried lots of stuff. For sure, I tried hiding it and having a little towel with me and wearing certain kinds of clothes and always wearing a T-shirt under my regular shirt, so that if I sweated, it wouldn't be, it would take a little while before it started to get really obvious. And sitting by open windows and keeping the temperature as cool as I could and stuff like that. And I even resorted to some really crazy things. There's a thing where you get these little plastic tubs with pads and put electricity through it and basically electrocute your hands. And it numbs your fingers, numbs your hands, and you don't sweat for a few months. And then you got to do it again. Every few months, you got to do it again. And so I was doing that for a while, especially as I was a physical therapist, because I used to take classes, of course. And then in the labs, you have to put your hands on people. And I just wanted to be comfortable in class. It was terrifying to be in class knowing that we were going to go to lab and then we were going to split up into partners and I would have to work on somebody and put my hands on somebody. It was like terrifying. And so at one point I was doing this electrical thing and then I could be in classes without sweating. I still had the anxiety and I could still sweat in my body and sometimes it showed up that crazy. I remember one time I was working on a client and he really liked my work and he also had that sweaty hand thing, interestingly enough. But he brought over his acupuncturist one day to watch because he wanted him to see what I was doing. And I just started sweating. My whole body, just like in an instant, broke out into this giant sweat. So even though I had ways to deal with the hand thing sometimes, wipe off and then work, or if I was doing the electrical thing, but sometimes it just hit me like the whole body would just go into a total body sweat. And I remember being terrified, even getting worked on, like going and getting therapy for myself. I remember going to one of my mentors, and I was just terrified. And I'd be thinking, why am I terrified? I'm paying him to work on me. But I would go in there, and it got so bad that he would put a sheet down, and I would, as soon as I laid down and he started to work on me, my whole body would just go into a giant, just total sweat, bam. And the whole sheet was totally drenched. I mean, crazy drenched. And then, he got to where it was like, he was treated me nice, respectfully, but it was obvious, what was going on. And then we'd pull the sheet off, and then he'd put another sheet on, and he'd be like, no big deal. And then I was comfortable. It's like it had to kind of sweat out for some reason. So I had this crazy thing. And one thing I did was I ran 70, 80, 90, 100 miles a week. I ran up to 130 miles a week. And a lot of it was I loved running. But part of it was I didn't feel comfortable unless I was running. And I remember telling my friend Carlos once, I said, I'm only comfortable after I run. Like when I'm done running, I can relax. And I mean, I ran a lot. 90 miles a week was pretty common. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 7 miles in the morning, 15 in the evening, with a lot of speed work in the evening. And I would just pass out at night after eating. But after running, I was relaxed. And so I was starting to figure this out. But along the way, I decided, you know what, I don't want to be some 80-year-old guy that's sweating. I want to be able to have a girlfriend. I want to be able to talk to anybody. I want to be able to do stuff. But something happened, and I at one point I got to where I got injured and I couldn't run. So there I was, I couldn't run, and it was going on for months and months and months, 8 months of not being able to run. So my anxiety was off the charts, and my identity as a runner was going away, but the sweating thing was an issue. So luckily I found a therapist, and she put one hand on my foot and said I had an artery problem. And so she worked on me and cleared it. And 2 days later I was back to running. And but what was cool was my anxiety started to come down every time I got worked on, and I started getting a lot of work done on myself. My anxiety was starting to come down, and other things in my body were healing. My teeth were no longer having cavities. And so I started doing these classes, and I took 110 of these integrated manual therapy classes over a 10-year period. And during the class, I think I tell my wife I'm the bravest person I know, because I would take these classes that were very high level classes, and you were judged very strongly in the classes, at least it felt like it, about if you were doing it right. And we had to break up into labs. So every class I had to work on somebody, and they got to work on me, and they could see if I was sweating. And somehow I found people that didn't judge me most of the time, but it really affected me. And so, but I kept taking the classes, and kept working on myself like crazy, and it started to really change this. So it cleared it. My anxiety went away. My sweating thing, actually my hands went away from sweating, and I can hold on to girls' hands, now my wife's hands, and do anything I want, work on people and not have it. It's an amazing thing. The crazy thing, something else happened at that point. So I had a great practice, and I had a great life, and everything was going great, but I started getting sick, and I started to get some severe bone pain, and I couldn't figure it out, and I got very depressed. And again, I couldn't run for many, many months, and this one took 1.5 years to fix. I still didn't have the sweaty hand thing or the anxiety, but I was very depressed, and I couldn't run. I had severe bone pain. And what happened was I found that fluoride had been put in the water in San Diego. And so as I researched it, I realized, oh my goodness, I've been poisoned. I've actually been poisoned. So I got filters for the house, and got spring water to drink. And then I wasn't dying anymore, but I still couldn't run. But then I found a remedy. So I found a very specific remedy, and 3 days later I was back to running. So we decided, Jen and I, we were having been, and we're like, we're gonna move. We're gonna move where they don't do this. And we found a place up here in the Pacific Northwest with well water, and where they don't fluoridate in the town, Bellingham. So we moved to the Pacific Northwest, and so I thought, okay, I solved another layer of this. I had already solved the anxiety thing, and now I solved another chronic thing. And I thought, now we're good. We're gonna have a great home up here in the Pacific Northwest, and life's gonna be good. But something interesting happened. Some more stuff kind of followed me. Maybe it was my past and my the emotional and and physical pain of what happened when I was growing up. I don't know. But we ended up in a house that was very, very toxic. And so we started getting sick. So we ended up actually sleeping outside for a year. A lot of you know that story, but blew through hundreds of thousands of dollars, over $100,000, and a year of sleeping outside, fixing up the house, and didn't have a business anymore, and barely a few clients here and there, and it was crazy. So so what I found at that time was I found there's got to be a way to fix this thing. I knew that the common denominator was me, right? Like all these things attacking me, and the anxiety, and then the bone pain, and now this toxin in a house thing. It was like a victim pattern. So I had to learn how to fix that for myself. And it took a lot more training and a lot more deep inner work. And I figured that part out. And so what I got out of all this was I found that all these things, the sweaty hand thing, the anxiety thing, the bone pain, the coming up here and having toxins following us around and figuring all that stuff out, it was like all those challenges were actually the thing that was sculpting me. So while I got to be free of anxiety and free of the sweaty hand things, and free of a lot of the chronic physical conditions, it was amazing. I started to be where I really got to the point where I could be me. I know that sounds kind of funny, but I got to be me, and I didn't have to try to be somebody else, and I could be me loudly, and I can do YouTube shows, and I basically got my life purpose, and it's to help people, help people solve this kind of stuff, and to help. I helped Jen and our family, a lot of people in Jen's family and our family, to get their health back, and so I wanted to share this with you because I know a lot of people have things that seem insurmountable, and when I was in my teens and 20s and 30s, I just had one thing: just fix that anxiety, fix that sweating thing, and I don't care about anything else. And of course, that stuff fixes up, and then you want the next thing. And I feel like the whole thing has been this process to get to the point where now I can do things in ways that I really want to do and just be me. And I want to tell you that so that you know that there's a way for you to solve whatever it is you're dealing with. And I think I'm sharing this because I'm going to be doing more and more, getting very open about what I've been up to and what's happened with me and where I'm going with stuff, because I want to show you how we're doing this. There's a lot of different ways that you can interact with me, but what I'm talking about now is a way to get more information about how to clear whatever that is in your way of anxiety or the sweaty hands thing. If that's something you're dealing with, I'm going to be sharing a lot more stuff. And if you're interested in that, I'm going to put it on a site. You can go to autoimmuneanswers.com, and there'll be an email sign-up list, and I'll share a lot more stuff. So I hope this helps you. I hope you get something out of it. Let me know what you think, and let's get out there and live. Let's really live. All right, everybody.